that's not Tim Walz.
I'm just curious if Madison and Scott are disturbed by any lies that Donald Trump is telling. You've done an analysis of Walz. Are there any lies that Donald Trump tells that you are disturbed by?
I don't want any politician to lie ever. I wish they would all tell the truth all the time.
That was a Kamala Harris evasion. What is a lie that Donald Trump
First of all, I don't answer to you, and I don't answer to you. That's number one.
And just like that, it happened. The gloves came off, and Scott Jennings, the guy who's made a career out of calm, calculated dismantlings, finally said what most Americans watching these CNN panels have been dying to scream at their screens. I don't answer to you. Welcome back to Magnet TV Genius Data, where we break down media madness so you don't have to decode it yourself. Now let me be clear, this isn't your standard Jennings segment. This wasn't about policy nuance or polite debate. This was about standing up to a table of smug ideologues and saying, enough! And the target? None other than Michael Eric Dyson, CNN's unofficial philosopher in residence and the reigning king of condescending word salads. You see, Dyson's shtick isn't about clarity, it's performance. It's about sounding profound while dodging accountability. But Jennings, he's the antidote. This moment wasn't just about defending Trump. It was about calling out the entire setup, the gotcha framing, the selective outrage, the rhetorical traps. And Jennings didn't flinch. He fired back, not with volume, but with precision. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Why are we letting Walz off the hook here? I mean,
I just played the bite. I mean,
but like this idea. No, I'm just. He said occasionally I'll be a knucklehead. I mean, knucklehead is a euphemism for a damn liar. It's not just China, military record, the fertility treatments, which he uses as a political cudgel against his opponents on IVF, which they lie about all the time. He talks about things in the campaign of a policy nature that are absolutely not true.
We just
met this guy
Like
8 weeks ago, and all we know is that he frequently fabricates his own personal narrative to make political points.
So can I say this? Here's the point. The point you made earlier about the fact that Donald Trump withdrew from the 60 Minutes debate. We can hold Tim Walz accountable. We can talk about discrepancies. We can talk about mendacity. The point you made about the quality and pedigree of a particular misstatement, the kind of quote knucklehead, and we can take it to mean what Scott says, is qualitatively different than a person who is deliberately deploying lies to create false narratives that hurt other people, that have a destructive impact upon the nation, and that he refuses to be held accountable for.
Narratives Donald like Trump, the fact that January 6th was a pleasant, quiet tour around the Capitol.
But the refusal to acknowledge the truth right before him, not to be held to account, going on Fox News as opposed to CBS's 60 Minutes because he doesn't want to be held accountable, because he refuses in a kind of neo-fascist gesture to be held accountable for anything that he says.
Senator,
and people sit here and defend him.
You've known Tim Walz for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a pattern for him. He's been asked about it many times. These answers keep shifting, but not quite landing as I made a mistake and I'm sorry.
Well, as far as I know, the ones he's done is that he said he had been to China during Tiananmen Square and he wasn't. And what are the other ones?
His military, numerous issues with his military.
The military record is just, he once said that
he said he has carried a gun in war, which was not the case, and his
theater of war.
Yeah.
Okay.
But are there any lies that you all are disturbed that Donald Trump?
Whereas Trump is just lying every day he has a speech. The New York Times did a analysis of his speech and of Kamala's speech, and he told 86 lies in 63 minutes.
And just like clockwork, here comes the pivot. The moment they've been circling like vultures finally arrives. Let's talk about lies. Oh, now they want honesty. Suddenly the panel is clutching their pearls, pretending like they just discovered deception exists in American politics. And of course, it all began in 2016, when Donald Trump came down that golden escalator and cast a spell on the Republic. Give me a break. Because if you listened closely, you could hear it. That subtle shift in tone, the build-up to their grand indictment. But instead of delivering a real argument, they give us a Broadway production. Enter Michael Eric Dyson, center stage, armed with his trusty thesaurus and that classic air of, I read 3 books you've never heard of, therefore I win. He doesn't argue. He performs. Every sentence is a monologue. Every idea drips with theatrical flair. And the substance? Lost somewhere between the metaphor and the moralizing. Now here's the best part. They had just finished brushing off Tim Walz's blatant lies about his military record. Lies that would get a conservative buried in a week-long news cycle. But Walz, that's just a knucklehead moment. A little oopsie, a harmless fib. Meanwhile, if Trump mispronounces a country, they call for a congressional investigation. The double standard isn't just obvious, it's strategic. They know every politician massages the truth. It's not good, but it's politics. That doesn't make it right, but let's not pretend Trump invented it. What the media can't stand, and I mean really can't stomach, is that Trump refuses to bow to their rituals. He doesn't grovel. He doesn't say, I'm sorry for existing, please forgive me. He says, I meant what I said, want to fight about it, and that breaks their entire operating system, because Trump plays by his rules. And Scott Jennings, he doesn't just see that, he mirrors it in his own way. He's not a flamethrower like Trump, but he refuses to be cornered into reciting their ideological script. And the minute he doesn't play along, boom, panic. And let's go back to Dyson for a second, because honestly, he is a case study in academic elitism masquerading as debate. You ever notice how Dyson can take a simple topic and wrap it in so much rhetorical fog that even Google Translate would say, nah, I'm good. You don't win a debate by confusing the audience. You win it by clarifying. But that's the trick. Dyson's entire strategy is to sound smart enough that no one dares question him. Because once you strip away the theatrics, what's left? Just another pundit in a suit pretending to be the conscience of America. And that's why Scott Jennings is such a threat. He speaks like a regular person. Short sentences, clear points, zero drama. He doesn't need to show off, he shows up. And that clarity, that no frills, truth on the table style, that's what destroys their act.
I'm just curious if Madison and Scott are disturbed by any lies that Donald Trump is telling. You've done an analysis of Walz. Are there any lies that Donald Trump tells that you are disturbed by?
I don't want any politician to lie ever. I wish they would all tell the truth all the time.
That was a Kamala Harris evasion. What is a lie that Donald Trump
Look, first of all, I don't answer to you, and I don't answer to you. That's number one. Number two,
it
is my sincere. Well, I don't answer to these two guys. It's my sincerest hope that all politicians do the best job they can.
So you still haven't answered the question.
And that's what the American people deserve. And I think when you
what lies does Kamala Harris tell that you're mad about? Can you give me a list? Have you brought it? Is it in your jacket?
Sure. You want me to say some things that Kamala Harris has sort of shifted her position on healthcare?
No, not shifted.
Lies.
No, she hasn't lied. She's
never lied.
Now it's your turn. Is there any Donald Trump lie? How about you like the blood of immigrants? Is there some Donald Trump lie? How about January 6th was just a tour? I didn't have anything to do with January 6th. How about Stormy Daniels? Do you care about that lie? Do you care about the lie that global warming is a Chinese hoax? That's a lie. He knows it's a lie. Everybody knows it's a lie.
But I must say,
I'm just curious, will you answer the question, is there one Donald Trump lie that crosses the line for you?
I do not agree with most of what Donald Trump has said about January the 6th. From the day it happened to this moment right now, and every day I have been on this network, I could not be more clear about what I think happened on January the 6th, what he did, and what he has said.
Did he lose the election?
He absolutely lost the election. And now we've had 3.5 years of absolute terrible. And that's exactly what happened.
All right,
I guess
guys,
it was me asking the question. I'm glad you answered.
Everyone, stick around for us.
I thought we were having a conversation.
Coming up next.
And just like that, boom! Scott Jennings dropped the line that shattered the smug little bubble around that CNN panel like a sledgehammer to glass. I don't answer to you. Let that marinate. Because in a media landscape where conservatives are constantly expected to grovel, to explain, to preface every thought with a disclaimer, that line wasn't just a clapback. It was a declaration of independence. No raised voice, no finger pointing, no red-faced meltdown. Just calm, calculated defiance delivered with the precision of a laser-guided missile. And here's the thing, that's what makes it lethal. See, these panels are carefully crafted ambush zones. They're not discussions, they're pressure cookers for people like Jennings. You're supposed to fold under the heat. You're supposed to second-guess yourself, apologize for views half the country agrees with, and walk on eggshells while smug pundits roll their eyes and cut you off. But this time, Scott Jennings didn't blink. No panic, no retreat. He made it crystal clear. He's not there to pass some ideological loyalty test administered by cable news clergy. And oh boy, did it catch them off guard. They had one mission: force Jennings into the Trump trap. You know the one, where they keep asking, but what about Trump's lies, huh? What about Trump? Name one. Say it out loud. It's like watching toddlers poke a dog hoping it finally growls. But Scott didn't bite. He pulled the pin on a rhetorical grenade and tossed it right back at them. I don't answer to you. Translation? You don't get to dictate the conversation. You don't get to weaponize morality only when it suits your party. You don't get to pretend this is a courtroom when the prosecution's hands are just as dirty. And that's when the panic set in, because Scott flipped the script. He turned the lens around and asked them the exact same questions. Where's your list of Biden lies? Where's Kamala's Hall of Shame? How about Hillary, the queen of convenient memory loss under oath? Crickets. Suddenly it wasn't so fun anymore. Suddenly the confidence in their voices turned to discomfort. They started dodging, mumbling, stammering, and trying desperately to regain control. Because this was never about truth. It was about cornering Jennings into an apology he didn't owe for a man they've built their entire worldview around hating. And when he didn't cave, they didn't know what to do. They weren't prepared for a conservative who fights back with calm firepower instead of flinching. And folks, that was just the warm-up. Because the next clip, that's when Jennings stops responding. Ian starts commanding. Alright, let's unpack this circus one ridiculous accusation at a time. First up, Stormy Daniels. Yes, Trump paid hush money to a woman he allegedly had an affair with. Is that behavior admirable? Nope. It's ugly, transactional, and reeks of everything we hate about the elite power games behind closed doors. But let's not kid ourselves. The moral outrage here, it's manufactured. Fabricated for primetime headlines and Twitter meltdowns. Because if personal character was the line in the sand, we wouldn't just be reevaluating Trump. We'd be bulldozing half of Mount Rushmore. You want to go there? Let's go there. Bill Clinton turned the Oval Office into a punchline. John F. Kennedy made Marilyn Monroe a historical footnote. LBJ reportedly conducted meetings from the toilet and bragged about his anatomy to staffers. And yet, those legacies remain sacred to the very people clutching their pearls about Trump's indiscretions. So no, the outrage isn't about ethics. It's about control. Control of the narrative. Control of public perception. Control over who's allowed to be flawed and still wield power, and who must be dragged through the mud and left for dead. Now cue the next crisis, climate change. Suddenly, Trump's the Antichrist because he dared question whether global warming is the apocalyptic certainty the media claims it is. He said it was a hoax. He doesn't believe in science. Okay, calm down. Let's rewind for a second. Is Trump a climatologist? No. But neither is Michael Eric Dyson or half the CNN panel who suddenly speak like they've been peer-reviewed in Nature. They're not scientists, they're professional alarmists. They throw around phrases like settled science, the same way a magician says abracadabra, to stop you from asking what's really going on behind the curtain. And what did Trump actually do? He questioned a narrative. He challenged a consensus that's been wrapped in billions of dollars, political incentives, and cultural pressure. That's not a lie, that's called thinking independently. And maybe, just maybe, if we encouraged a little more of that on cable news, we'd have more conversations and fewer performative panic attacks. But here's the real kicker. They love to accuse Trump of being the biggest liar in presidential history. Sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But ask yourself, is it really a lie if you believe it? Because that's the part no one dares say out loud. If Trump genuinely believes the 2020 election was stolen, and he clearly does, then by definition he isn't lying. He might be wrong, but that's not the same as deception. A lie requires intent to deceive. Belief, even flawed belief, is not deception, it's disagreement. And yet the panel sits there, calling him a liar over and over again, like they've discovered the Da Vinci Code of political purity. Meanwhile, we've got sitting presidents who tell you inflation is under control while gas hits $7 a gallon, and that's somehow fine. Let's be real, the media doesn't hate Trump because he lies. They hate him because he refuses to bend. He doesn't beg for their approval. He doesn't use their language, and worst of all, he fights them with the same tools they've used for decades: narrative, branding, bold claims, and relentless confidence. And that's why Scott Jennings matters in all of this. because he's one of the few voices willing to step into that hurricane and say the quiet part out loud. He doesn't run from controversy. He walks right into it, briefcase in hand, armed with facts, logic, and a spine. While others bend the knee to fashionable outrage, Jennings calls out the hypocrisy and walks away standing taller than ever. So buckle up, we're not just winding down, we're landing this plane with a truth bomb. Let's wrap this up the way the panel never could, and with clarity. Look, Jennings isn't flashy, he's not there to go viral, but when he speaks, the entire room shifts. And in this moment, he didn't just push back. He exposed how shallow the panel's game really is. They threw every canned insult at him, and he answered with composure, facts, and one devastating line. I don't answer to you. And that's why it hits so hard. Because in an environment built on sound bites and moral posturing, a little honesty goes a long way. So now it's your turn. Do you think Trump is the master of deception the media claims he is? Or are you more concerned with the networks that spin stories 24/7 while pretending they're the moral compass? Let me know in the comments, and don't hold back. And if you're sick of media spin and love raw debates like this, hit like and subscribe to join us here at Magnet TV Genius Data, where we don't just talk politics. We expose the performance. See you in the next one.